Between Warzone 2's massive map and a completely new set of in-game mechanics, diving in can be a daunting feat. Because of that, I've put together the ultimate beginner's guide to Call of Duty Warzone 2 and wanted to offer you an official invite to my new series built to make you the best player you can be. With that said, welcome to Warzone Bootcamp. As a game within the Battle Royale genre, the goal of every Warzone match is simple. Drop in, loot up, eliminate enemies, and make it out as the single victor. While that may sound easy, remember, Warzone is a 150-player Battle Royale, where every enemy you're fighting has the exact same goal. Win by any means necessary. You'll need to find weapons, fight to stay inside a ring of toxic gas, and eliminate every enemy who crosses your path. So strap up and put your game face on because you're going to have to fight tooth and nail to get yourself a victory royale. But before even diving into Al Mazrah, it's important to first explore Warzone 2's loadout system. So here's the gist of things. First, there's 50 plus base weapons and more that are being added with every new season update. These base weapons fall into a list of several different weapon categories based on their best use. But what you really need to know is that as you play with each of these weapons, it'll unlock a series of attachments that can be used on almost any other weapon. And to find what attachments are unlocked from each weapon, you can go to their progression trees within the new gunsmith, or while looking through the available attachments, you'll be able to see in the top left what is required of you to unlock said attachment. Additionally, when you level these weapons to their absolute max, there's a feature completely new to Call of Duty called weapon tuning. Simply put, whatever attachments you add to a gun, if weapon tuning is unlocked for that weapon, it will allow you to dive deeper into how beneficial an attachment is for the stats it's already boosting or even those it's negatively affecting. Meaning, if an attachment is already helping you aim down faster, you can actually tune that attachment to be even quicker. And this works for things like hipfire, recoil control, and pretty much anything else you can think of. Your goal should be to level as many of these weapons as you personally have time for, which, by the way, I recommend you subscribing with notifications on, as I'll be updating you with the fastest and easiest ways to do that within Warzone as the game progresses. And then you should utilize those attachments with tuning, if you're able to unlock that as well, to dominate in Al Mazrah. Beyond weapons, loadouts also include a new system for perks called perk packages. As it stands now, perk packages include a series of 4 pre-selected perks, those of which can help you engage enemies in a variety of different ways. Looking to have 2 primary weapons? Choose a perk package that has Overkill. Looking to have your equipment automatically refill over a short period of time? Choose a perk package that has Resupply. As for the final items encompassed within loadouts, we have equipment, otherwise known as lethals and tacticals. These are a series of items such as grenades, thermites, flashbangs, stim shots, etc. that can be used throughout the match to either get eliminations or give yourself a tactical advantage over your enemies. I highly recommend trying each of these to find what you deem to be the best for your personal playstyle, because trust me, it matters. Now that you've had a chance to look over and maybe even decide what weapons you'd like to work on getting leveled, it's officially time to take your first shot at diving into Al Mazrah. Whether that be with a group of friends that could be found by joining my Discord, discord.gg/expel, where we have thousands of members, or a solo expedition into the battlefield, there's a few things you need to know before diving out of the plane. Before you take the plunge, you're going to be given the opportunity to possibly mark where you'd like to go. You can do that by opening the in-game map, which will additionally show you the path of the plane in the form of an arrow, then simply press the button for ping on wherever you'd like to go. As a quick tip for this, you're probably going to notice that the default color for any pings made by your team is white, which isn't easy to see as it tends to blend in with many other things on your map. If you'd like to change this, all you'll need to do is press pause, open your interface settings, go down to the color customization panel, then change your neutral color to a more vibrant color like pink, yellow, or red. I personally use pink, but again, it's entirely up to you. Once you've marked a drop, it's time to take the leap. And parachuting actually has its own set of mechanics, but for the most part, they're pretty intuitive. Basically, if you want to go farther, keep your parachute pulled. But if you want to go faster, but lose more height, cut the parachute and dive. Don't worry though, you can pull and cut as many times as you'd like. However, I recommend pulling your parachute once you get pretty close to the ground, because if you don't, this could happen. Additionally, unlike the original Warzone released in 2020, while parachuting in from the plane, it's impossible to shoot your starting pistol at anyone else while in the air, at least until you get about 100 meters from the ground. This means without the fear of being shot, you can fly to almost anywhere your heart desires. As you find yourself nearing the ground, you'll likely be caught in a panic, especially if there's enemies landing nearby. But just breathe and take things one step at a time. Your first goal is to find a weapon, but of course, it's likely you can end up without one before an enemy tries to engage you with gunfire, and in that case, either run or take them head on with your starting pistol. Once you have a second to think, your main focus in the early game, and even as you progress further throughout the match, will be to stay looted with the best items with which you can fill your inventory. But when it comes to looking for these items, Warzone 2 has crafted a system that makes it a bit easier to find them. Throughout the map, you'll be able to locate chests that can be opened and will then dump random loot onto the ground. However, most lootable items are going to be in areas that make sense for that specific loot to be. Looking for heals? Check a medicine cabinet. Looking for money? Check a cash register. Looking for plates? Well, plates can actually be found just about everywhere. Regardless, another great way to secure high-value loot is through eliminations, because when you find an enemy and send them back to the lobby, all the enemy's items will be secured into a small bag laying on their location of elimination. And all you need to do is open up that bag and select the items you'd like to keep. However, there's a large chance you're not going to have enough room in your inventory for all these items. Reason being, Warzone 2 takes advantage of the popular Battle Royale inventory system, backpacks. See, when you first land, you'll begin with a small backpack and have the opportunity to find medium and large backpacks throughout the map. These larger backpacks give you more space to hold more items, as well as the ability to hold a third weapon, which can either be shared with a teammate in need or switch with one of your primary weapons if a scenario demands it. In addition to carrying a third weapon, you have the option to carry as much of one specific item as can fit in your inventory. Whether you find your slots best filled with kill streaks, armor plates, or a ton of ammo, the options are nearly endless. Aside from the inventory, there's plenty more to Warzone 2's user interface, and specifically, we have the heads-up display, or HUD for short. To begin, in the top left corner of your screen, there's actually a miniaturized version of the map we spoke on earlier, aptly named the minimap. What most people don't realize is that you can use the minimap to your advantage. For example, if you use a UAV kill streak, which we'll speak more on later, you'll notice red squares begin to pop up. If the red square is full, this means it's an enemy player. If the red square is an outline, then it's an AI bot. But if there's a red circle, then it's a decoy grenade. But that doesn't mean it should be ignored, as there's likely an enemy nearby. It's also great to note that if a player is on a different height level than you, then there will be an arrow below or above their red square indicating the difference. Furthermore, Call of Duty veterans know in previous titles, an enemy simply shooting their weapon would show their location on the minimap, although that's no longer the case with Warzone 2. Instead, when enemies shoot their weapon, it'll show on the compass at the top of your screen. When gunfire is heard, your best bet is to keep an eye on the compass and turn your character to the direction of the firing to give a clear indication and possibly communicate with your team as to the area from which it came. Of course, your minimap and compass aren't the only important elements of the heads-up display. In the bottom left corner of your screen, you'll be able to see your health as well as your plates and whether you have a self-revive token. In the bottom right, your gun and ammo, and in the top right, you'll find the number of teams and players remaining, as well as your total number of eliminations and spectators. Once you find you've gotten comfortable with the heads-up display, your next step is to utilize the minimap to find and secure yourself some contracts. And contracts, while not necessary, can absolutely alter the course of any match, as once you complete any contract, you'll be handsomely rewarded, some more than others, with cold, hard cash. Within Al Mazrah, you're going to be able to acquire one of 4 contracts at any given moment if you choose to do so. These contracts include the following, but may encompass more in the future. Bounty contracts, which as their name suggests, will mark an enemy on your map that you'll then be expected to eliminate. Most wanted contracts, which marks you as a bounty for every player in the match to see on their minimap, and you'll be expected to outlive the timer while slowly knocking it down by opening chests and loot caches, as well as eliminating enemies. Safecracker contracts that mark 3 safes on the map that you can blow open with supplied C4 and will be additionally rewarded with loot as well as the cash for completion. And lastly, intel contracts, where you'll find a piece of intel in the form of a laptop hard drive, then upload its data at a designated uplink area over the course of a short period of time while fending off any enemies that may see its signal. After you've completed a contract and find yourself with some cash, you'll want to spend it at one of Al Mazrah's buy stations, which are clearly marked on your map. Once you're able able to secure a buy station, open it up, and you'll be met with two categories of available purchases. First, a gear category where you'll find equipment, field upgrades, and kill streaks. And second, weapons, where you can purchase any primary weapons you've set up in your pre-game loadout menu. While all the gear has different prices according to what you're buying, it's best to note that all weapons may be purchased for $5,000 a piece, and there's no option to purchase a complete loadout, which would include your perks, equipment, and secondary weapon. However, 5 to 6 free loadouts do fall during the third stationary circle at the 30-second mark in a line in the middle of the circle. Although it's best to not stress the loadout drops too much, as there's a large likelihood someone could be waiting for you there. Additionally, you'll probably notice the loadout drops begin disappearing from your map as the game progresses. This is due to players receiving their loadouts from the drops, but that doesn't mean the drops are gone, just unmarked. If you run across one later in the game, feel free to use it. And if you find yourself in a sticky situation after going for your loadout, it would be great to know what you can do to disengage. And that's where in-game mechanics shine. Not only do you have the classic first-person shooter option, which is to slide out of the situation, but Call of Duty has added in one mechanic completely new to the franchise, ledge hanging, and another that's making a comeback from previous titles, dolphin diving. Ledge hanging is done by simply jumping toward any structure that has a ledge on it, and instead of bouncing off or immediately mantling over, you'll hang from the side while maintaining the ability to shoot over and shoot at enemies with a pistol if you have one available to you, mantle on top of the structure, or drop back down if you're not too interested in just hanging out. On the flip side, dolphin diving is performed by holding your crouch button while sprinting and tends to be best used when jumping away from grenades or out windows when things get too intense. Speaking of dolphins, Warzone 2 also gave us the ability to engage in aquatic activities with the newfound swimming mechanics, and truthfully, swimming in Warzone 2 is actually pretty cool. With its simple and intuitive mechanics such as just looking and moving where you want to go, it can be a real game changer if you find yourself in a pinch. But remember, you still have to come up for air, because if you don't, moreover, while Warzone 2 doesn't currently have any wild advanced mechanics like Call of Duty's previous titles, they tend to be found in games as time progresses, so be sure to subscribe with notifications on to be informed of any content dedicated to movement. In addition to movement mechanics, throughout your match you may have heard voices that weren't those of your teammates. Hey buddy! Hey buddy! I like your skin, dude! Oh my god, it's so nice to see you. You look so good today.
My mic sounds
It sounds so bad, but I wasn't going to judge you. Don't worry, you're not going crazy. That's just proximity chat. While you may have heard of this feature due to its popularity in other games like PUBG, this is the first time it's been implemented in a Call of Duty title. But due to it being its first application in Call of Duty, many people aren't going to know how to properly utilize it, and you can use that to your advantage. Within about 50 meters, you're going to be able to hear your enemies speaking. That is, if they're doing so via game chat. If that's the case, you can either try to make some friends or talk some trash before you eliminate them. In any case, if you find all this running has you tired, Al Mazrah has a series of 11 unique vehicles to get you around the map when your feet just can't handle it any longer. And those vehicles include the ATV, a 3-seater that provides basically no protection, the UTV, a 4-seater that's all-terrain, the hatchback, a 4-door civilian vehicle for any drag racing soccer moms, the SUV, an all-terrain civilian 4x4 with a boxy frame, the Hummer EV, an all-electric super truck engineered for off-road, which is definitely a very expensive ad from GM because it's by far the fastest vehicle. The cargo truck, a large industrial vehicle with a flatbed. The chop top, a Jeep-style vehicle with little to no cover from oncoming fire. The light helo, a twin-engine light helicopter for rapid traversal and combat support. The heavy chopper, a heavily armored search and rescue helicopter. The RHIB, a maneuverable tactical boat designed for special forces. And finally, the armored patrol boat, which is a reinforced aquatic vehicle with mounted 50 caliber machine guns. Along with these, we've been given vehicle mechanics that not only allow us to break the window of any vehicle with a door on it and lean out to shoot oncoming enemies, but also the ability to climb from any seat within a vehicle onto its roof and lay down fire wherever necessary. A few places guaranteed to need a ton of firepower are Warzone 2's Strongholds and Black Sites. Similar to other battle royales, Warzone 2 added AI bots that fill specific areas of the map, and after eliminating those bots and exploring the area, you'll be able to retrieve higher tier loot. At Strongholds, once you complete a bomb defusal or simply eliminate all the AI in the vicinity, you and your team will be able to retrieve your loadouts as well as some backpacks and armor satchels from a designated chest. But don't underestimate these AIs, as they're not the cakewalk you may think them to be. As for black sites, these are unlocked once you complete the Strongholds and find the black site key from either an AI's lifeless body or from the chest you retrieved your loadout. You can then use that key at any black site door and go for a round 2 against even more difficult AI. But the AI aren't the only things you'll find in these black sites, because once you've made it through those, you'll be met with a nearly impossible to defeat Juggernaut. And after a long-fought battle, if you do somehow find yourself able to execute the Juggernaut, you'll be rewarded with not only the large backpack mentioned earlier, but an insanely powerful minigun that can eliminate enemies faster than any other weapon. Nevertheless, if you find yourself on the losing side of that battle, you'll be swiftly introduced to the Gulag. Upon death, you're thrown into an area with either your teammate, if they died with you, or a random enemy, and you'll be forced to fight 2 other random enemies. Luckily, with the aforementioned proximity chat, you can speak with your newfound teammate and even the opposing team once you find yourself within distance. As time progresses, if a team isn't eliminated, you'll slowly make your way into what's known as overtime, where you'll be met with yet another Juggernaut. A strategy I've found myself implementing is pleading with the enemy team to call a truce, only to wait for the Juggernaut to arrive and defeat it as a team of 4. If you're able to accomplish this, then both teams will be freed from the Gulag and released back into Al Mazrah. After learning all the basics for weapons, mechanics, and much more, you're still left with a singular goal: survive. As stated at the beginning of the video, there's 150 players willing to do whatever is necessary to get their very own victory royale. So it's important to do the same and implement any tricks that can give yourself and your squad an advantage. Of course, there's always going to be new things to learn, but there's absolutely some basic tips for survival that are going to help you get your first win. To begin, when you find yourself at a buy station with a little extra cash, or if you come across some while looting, grab yourself a kill streak. These are items like UAVs, precision airstrikes, and mortars that can give you a massive upper hand over your adversaries. UAVs reveal the location of any player within 250 meters that aren't in possession of the perk Ghost. Precision airstrikes and mortars can be used to lay down cover on enemies in hopes of either getting an elimination or giving you the chance to reposition yourself. On that same note, it's important to pay attention to your position at all times. You'll likely notice most players are going to be either hiding in buildings or constantly pushing out in the open with not a care in the world and just trying to get shots on enemies while standing still. Your goal should be the opposite. From the second you find yourself in the plane, even before diving, you're thinking about positioning. Is one area going to be better for loot than the other? Will it have good cover? Can you maneuver to the following circle easily from that area? And so much more. My recommendation would be to constantly pay attention to your surroundings. If you find there's an enemy nearby, don't let them get the jump on you first. Position yourself on higher ground where you'll have more cover, or even just with something in front of you blocking most of your body before you engage the target. It's important to make it as difficult as possible for the enemy to shoot you, because if you're someone just running around without a care in the world, it's likely you'll end up with bullets where you don't necessarily want them. And finally, throughout the match, there will be times where the game provides an in-game event. These will pop up on the center of your screen and are comprised of 3 options: a jailbreak, a restock, and lastly, a circle split. It's not guaranteed that any of these specifically will happen, as they each hold similar probabilities of occurring throughout a match. But if they do, this is what you need to know. Jailbreaks will revive all players from the dead, as well as release any players that may currently be in the Gulag. Restocks will close and refill every single chest, cabinet, and other openable loot caches throughout the map. And the circle split will do exactly as its name implies. Split the circle into 2 or 3 smaller circles, and once they have, they'll converge back into one large circle directly after. And that's about everything a beginner will need to know about Call of Duty Warzone 2. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on to never miss another Warzone Bootcamp video. And if you'd like to see the full Warzone Bootcamp playlist, it's on screen now.